It was the most gloriously sunny Saturday that Fernwood had ever seen. Birds were singing, flowers were blooming, and a warm golden breeze drifted through every open window in the neighborhood. Inside the house, Chase the cat stretched on his favorite windowsill, yawned an enormous yawn that revealed every one of his teeth, and announced to absolutely nobody in particular that today was going to be HIS Day. Chase sauntered into the kitchen, smoothed down his bow tie in the reflection of the toaster, and began packing a picnic basket with the most serious expression imaginable. He stacked sandwiches, cookies, a thermos of warm milk, and a stack of comics. What he did not notice was Squeak the mouse darting between his ankles, quietly borrowing 2 sandwiches, 3 cookies, and tucking them neatly into his little backpack with a satisfied grin. Chase stepped outside, held his face up to the sunshine, and took the deepest, most satisfied breath. Then he tripped over the garden hose and crashed face first into a rose bush. Squeak emerged from the front door behind him, strolled past without a word, and calmly opened a tiny folding chair from his backpack. He sat down, pulled out one of Chase's stolen cookies, and began eating it thoughtfully while Chase untangled himself from the roses. Despite his thorny start, Chase declared the picnic officially underway. He marched down the sunny path toward Fernwood Park with the picnic basket balanced on his head and a bright yellow kite tucked under his arm. Squeak trotted alongside on his tiny green sneakers, insisting the kite was too big for Chase to handle. Chase responded by tripping over a pine cone and launching the kite straight into the air without even meaning to. It soared magnificently. Fernwood Park was absolutely buzzing that morning. Families spread out colorful blankets, children chased bubbles, and the annual Fernwood Dog Show had just begun setting up its sparkly stage near the big oak tree. Chase puffed out his chest and chose the finest sunny patch of grass for their picnic. He spread out a checked blanket with a dramatic flourish. Squeak immediately pointed out it was upside down. Chase said that was intentional. It was not. At the far end of the park, near the shimmering duck pond, Gerald the goose was conducting his daily inspection. He waddled along the water's edge, eyeing every squirrel and sparrow with deep suspicion. Gerald had run Fernwood Park his own way for 11 years and intended to keep it that way. When he spotted Chase flying a kite on what Gerald considered his personal grass, the goose puffed up to twice his normal size and began marching. Meanwhile, Squeak had unpacked his gadget backpack and assembled a tiny portable fan, a miniature solar panel, and a colorful parasol that popped open over their snacks. Chase was deeply impressed, though he pretended not to be. Just as they settled in with their food, a golden blur of fur, tongue, and wagging tail exploded out of the nearby bushes. It was Biscuit the retriever, who smelled sandwiches from approximately half a mile away and had come running. Biscuit did not mean to destroy the picnic. He simply sat down on the thermos, inhaled an entire sandwich in one gulp, and wagged his tail so hard the parasol spun like a helicopter and lifted off the ground. Squeak dove to save the cookies. Chase lunged for the flying parasol. Biscuit licked Chase on the entire face and then sat down very happily, clearly convinced he had been enormously helpful. The picnic blanket was now a disaster zone. While everyone scrambled, the yellow kite, still attached to its string, caught a gust of wind and began pulling the string across the park. The problem was the other end of the string was looped around Chase's tail. Within seconds, the kite yanked Chase off his feet and dragged him skidding across the grass at high speed, straight toward the dog show stage where Madame Fluff was mid-performance and looking absolutely spectacular. She did not stay spectacular for long. Chase slid under the stage curtain, shot across the polished platform, and crashed directly into the table of dog show trophies. 12 golden trophies flew into the air in a beautiful, terrible arc. Madame Fluff let out the most dramatic gasp in park history, clutching her glittery collar. The crowd of watching animals went completely silent. A single trophy landed perfectly balanced on Chase's head. He blinked twice. Madame Fluff pointed at him and shrieked louder than a foghorn. Gerald the goose arrived at exactly that moment, which was the worst possible moment for everyone. He surveyed the toppled trophies, the disrupted dog show, and the orange cat with a trophy on his head. Then he took an enormous breath and released the most earth-shaking, window-rattling honk the park had ever heard. Every bird within 300 meters took off simultaneously. Leaves fell off trees. Squeak, still clutching his cookies back at the picnic, heard it and winced. Squeak stuffed the cookies safely into his backpack, grabbed his gadget toolkit, and sprinted toward the noise on his tiny green sneakers. He had seen Chase cause trouble before, but the honking, the screaming poodle, and the fact that the yellow kite was now tangled in the park's water fountain told him this situation had escalated beyond normal levels. Squeak was small, but his brain worked faster than most computers. He was already forming a plan as he ran. The yellow kite had wrapped itself around the fountain's central water jet, which caused the fountain to spray in every direction at once. A sparkling wall of water arcade across the park path, soaking a line of startled squirrels, a family of ducks who were already soaked and not pleased about more water, and Gerald the goose's prized park notice board, which read "No kites" in large letters. The ink ran immediately. Gerald's eye twitched dangerously. Chase attempted to apologize to Madame Fluff by straightening his bow tie and offering his most charming smile. Madame Fluff was not charmed. She had spent 6 weeks perfecting her performance routine. Her fur had been styled for 4 hours that morning, and a cat had just skidded across her stage and catapulted her trophies into the air. She breathed in, breathed out, and then very calmly poured the entire bowl of dog show punch directly onto Chase's head. Biscuit, who had been wandering the park following interesting smells, arrived at the dog show stage and immediately decided it looked like the most wonderful place he had ever seen. He bounded onto the platform, slipped on the spilled punch, slid the full length of the stage, crashed through the banner, and somehow ended up standing in the exact correct position for the best in show pose, 4 paws planted, head tilted, tail wagging perfectly. The crowd went wild. Squeak reached the fountain, assessed the kite situation in precisely 4 seconds, and pulled a small retractable claw hook from his backpack. He launched it upward, caught the kite string, and began carefully unwinding it from the fountain jet. The water spray calmed to a gentle trickle. The soaked squirrels applauded. The ducks remained unimpressed. Gerald the goose stormed over to Squeak and demanded to know what was going on. Squeak politely suggested Gerald take a deep breath. Gerald decided that the cat was the root cause of all today's problems and commenced a full honking pursuit across the park. Chase ran as fast as his long legs could carry him, knocking over a bin, bouncing off a park bench, and accidentally running through a group of children blowing giant soap bubbles, which coated him from ears to tail in shimmering rainbow foam. He looked like the world's most unfortunate bubble bath advertisement as he sprinted past the fountain. Squeak, kite now safely retrieved, spotted Chase stampeding toward him in a cloud of rainbow bubbles with Gerald thundering behind. In one smooth motion, Squeak pulled a coil of string from his backpack, looped it around the big oak tree, and held out one end. Chase grabbed it automatically as he ran past and swung in a wide arc right over Gerald's head, landing cleanly on a park bench 15 meters away. Gerald skidded to a stop, completely confused. Chase collapsed on the park bench, still dripping with soap bubbles, and stared at the sky. Squeak hopped up beside him, opened his backpack, and produced the 3 remaining cookies, now only slightly crumbled. He offered one to Chase. Chase took it. For a full 30 seconds, the 2 rivals simply sat together eating cookies, watching Biscuit happily accept a best in show rosette on the dog show stage while Madame Fluff fainted dramatically into the judges' table. Gerald stomped over to the bench, chest puffed to maximum capacity, and delivered a long stern lecture about park rules, kite regulations, fountain hygiene, and the proper behavior expected of all park visitors. Chase and Squeak listened politely. When Gerald finally finished, Squeak reached into his backpack and produced a freshly printed laminated copy of Gerald's official park rules, which Squeak had memorized, and on which Chase had technically broken only the one rule about kites. Gerald spluttered. Madame Fluff had recovered from her faint, and was now eyeing Biscuit's best in show rosette with enormous suspicion. Biscuit had no idea what was happening but was wagging his tail hard enough to create a breeze. The dog show judge, a distinguished badger in a waistcoat, explained that Biscuit's accidental performance had demonstrated extraordinary natural talent and raw charisma. Madame Fluff breathed through her nose very carefully for several seconds, then congratulated Biscuit through gritted teeth. Squeak decided the day wasn't over yet. He unpacked the remaining supplies, reset the picnic blanket the correct side up, rebuilt the parasol, and organized everything neatly. Chase gathered the trophies from the dog show, polished every single one with his bow tie, and returned them with a formal apology. Madame Fluff accepted grudgingly. Gerald helped straighten the park notice board, and in a surprising turn of events, agreed to share the best patch of grass if everyone promised to be more careful. And so, in the golden light of a perfect afternoon, Chase, Squeak, Biscuit, Madame Fluff, and even Gerald the goose found themselves sharing the world's most unlikely picnic. Gerald ate an entire plate of crackers without once honking. Biscuit sat on his rosette, but nobody mentioned it. Madame Fluff allowed one single hair to fall out of place and decided she didn't mind. Chase adjusted his bow tie and quietly admitted that Squeak's parasol had been a very good idea. Squeak beamed. As the sun dipped below the rooftops of Fernwood, Chase and Squeak walked home side by side, the yellow kite tucked safely under Chase's arm. Chase admitted it had not entirely been his day. Squeak said it had been better than most. They reached the front door, and Chase held it open for Squeak, which had never happened before in the entire history of their relationship. Squeak walked through, looked back with a grin, and said they should do it again next Saturday. Chase smiled.